Welcome to the Dumb Idea Podcast with Mike and Alex. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the show. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video or podcast on any platform that you're listening on. Please visit us at www.dumbideapodcast.com. All right, welcome back. Another show. We're going to get into a hot topic today. Been in the news quite a bit, polarizing, for whatever reason. The left seems to be anti Kyle Rittenhouse. The right seems to be pro Kyle Rittenhouse. And I think the news media, and we've talked about the news media before, but the news media definitely did not do a service to people on the left. So in this case, I'm talking about MSNBC, CNN, Fox, HuffPost, New York Times, Washington Post. The main actors in the liberal media, mostly because they never presented facts. They presented a narrative in this case, which painted Kyle Rittenhouse as always in the wrong, right? But through the trial, if people actually watched the trial, or followed it at least, a lot of the stuff that was said in the left-wing media actually got debunked, or it was found to be false, or false narrative, or embellished. But unfortunately, we always talk about this. The retraction's always on page 10, or in some cases, the retraction just never comes. But to some, and I'm going to give some credit where credit is due, for those that listen to the Young Turks. The Young Turks is a very liberal-leaning podcast / show with Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, I believe is her name, yep. Which is a whole mesh of two people, which I'll never understand. One being Turkish, one being Armenian. I don't really understand that dynamic there. But anyway, found
a way to be friends.
Found a way. Anna Kasparian, though, before the verdict was read, because she had actually followed the case, she was looking at the evidence that was being presented, and she actually came out and said, I was wrong. Because she was about Rittenhouse is guilty, can't believe this kid, I can't, all this stuff. And then when she finally saw some of this evidence being brought out in court, she was like, I was wrong. Even though I probably lean far from her on politics, I give her a ton of credit for saying, I got this one wrong, and not gaslighting the situation. Right?
Well, her credibility went up a ton. Yeah. With that, because and Young Turks isn't mainstream.
They got a lot of viewers, though.
Yeah, but they're not mainstream and
no.
The paper of record and all this other nonsense.
Right.
But no, that's big, because they don't do that. You don't see that happening.
Well, Cenk Uygur didn't do it.
Yeah.
Just her.
Right. Which
baffles my mind there, too. Works at the same show.
Right. It's probably agreeing and on all the same points.
Right.
But yeah, the thing is, a lot of this evidence was available for public consumption there were no bombshells dropped at this trial. Everyone had pretty much seen everything. And based upon what I saw from the beginning, I had issues with, and we can get into it, but I had issues with how the whole thing happened in the background. But when you look at the actual case, and that's what you have to look at when you're in court, is you can't look into too much of what's leading up to it when it's a situation like this. It has to be the acts that occurred with these with the three shootings, the three separate engagements. So that's what you have to look at. And there was nothing big I can say and I followed it a little bit. I wasn't like, I'm never one of these trial guys that I got to watch it and glued to it for any of them. But with this one, the prosecutor was straight garbage.
He was so bad.
Absolutely. It's like, dude, have you ever done any of this before?
No. I'm convinced he had not.
Now, the left was going after the judge and saying that he was, just a shill for the right and a Trump supporter and this and that. But he was appointed by a Democrat. He is a Democrat. The thing is, I think a lot of people are so not used to getting their own way that when they don't get their own way, it's always this is the problem, and it goes that sword cuts both ways. But it's the judge is a Trump supporter. Well, when you bring up someone's exercising their right to remain silent, and you bring that up in court, I mean that's just I'm pretty sure like a year one law student knows that.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, basically the prosecutor was trying to say that because Kyle Rittenhouse exercised his right to remain silent when he got arrested, basically he didn't talk to police. He waited for a lawyer. He would not talk to police when he got arrested about his involvement with the situation. And what the Prosecutor Binger, tried to basically convey was, well, if you were so innocent, why didn't you speak to police? Well, it's because, what is the Fourth Amendment?
Yes.
The right to remain silent? No, wait. That's
Fifth.
the Miranda.
It's Fifth.
Fifth Amendment.
Plead the Fifth.
Yeah. What is that? What it, I
Yes.
forget. Anyway, you have a right to remain silent. Is essentially what it is. So you don't have to talk to police.
Right. You don't have to go on the stand. You can say nothing.
Right.
And it's that cannot be held against you in court.
Correct. And he was trying to use it against him in front of a jury.
Yeah.
Like he was trying to convince the jury that because he was remaining silent throughout this whole process, that was an admission of guilt.
Right.
Which you can't do that.
Like, absolutely.
You can't allude to that in a courtroom. And the judge took him to task on it. Like he excused the jury from the courtroom and then dressed down the prosecutor for doing it.
Right.
And the prosecutor tried to play dumb and like, oh, well, I thought it was open. You didn't say we couldn't do this. Like, well, or maybe it was two separate issues. I think the right to remain silent one was non-negotiable. He dressed them down. But then there was another issue that he brought up, and the judge said, no, I reserve the right to be able to allow you to bring it up. But you should have asked me first.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And
right. It's like when if you come downstairs and the kids have drawn over the wall and you say, why'd you can't do this. You never told us we couldn't. I don't have to tell you to not do that.
Right. So. I said, don't mess up the wall. And you interpret that to mean you could draw on it, make it more beautiful.
We improved it.
Right. Yeah. And so, the judge, I thought he did, of course I'm going to say I thought he did a fair job. I think a lot of people didn't agree with him, even though appointed by a Democrat, he's probably a Democrat. But everyone on the lunatic left side, not everyone on the left is a lunatic. I reserve a special place for certain people on the left to call them like the lunatics. Just like on the right, I call them the crazies. Right. On the right, they got crazies. On the left, they got lunatics.
Yeah, I like wackos and wingnuts.
Sure. Yeah, everyone's got probably their own saying for them, right? They were upset that one of their own wasn't going to just take the other side to task. They wasn't going to dunk on them. Right. In the middle, but I think the judge, and I think a lot of judges, and for the most part lawyers, when they see a kid in the courtroom, they're not going to just throw away their rights and follow a narrative. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are judges all over this country that when there are children or underage people or even young folks under 20 or whatever, they try and give them the benefit of the doubt. They're trying to make it, because they know if they put them away, game over.
Yeah.
The recidivism rate's high. Their ability to live a life after being convicted of a felony, even to get a job, is tough.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes their lives that much tougher. And a lot of judges in this country are really reluctant to cast that aspersion on them, unless it's like some heinous stuff or multiple offenders. But for the most part, and I get it, this is a murder trial, but he wasn't going to let the prosecution flex on an 18-year-old and take away his rights just for the sake of some narrative.
Yeah. And I've always been so to me, if, to me, our rights are sacred to us. It was, they come from God. The government doesn't grant them to us, and the government's sole job is to protect our rights. And the thing with this one is for the prosecutor to just kind of poo-poo the Fifth Amendment, that's sacred. But the way I look at it is when if you have 10 guilty defendants go free on technicalities and this and that, but it protects that one guy, to me that's a fair trade-off.
Yeah.
Because the stakes are too high, and I think there's too many people are looking at this as just a game. And after court, they interviewed Rittenhouse's attorney, and he said, "This isn't a game. These are people's lives here that we're dealing with. We're not checking boxes off. It's not a game. Like, there are legit consequences down the line for all of it, for all of this. So, it's just the whole thing is a mess. A lot of people are saying it should not have even gone to court in the first place.
Yeah. Especially, so I guess, and this was another really messed up issue. So apparently, and you probably correct me if I'm wrong here, there was something about the video. The video evidence that the prosecution gave the defense was downgraded video. So it was more grainy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't at the resolution that the prosecution had. Mm-hmm. And apparently, the FBI had withheld aerial.
Yeah, because they had a drone flying up the entire time.
Yes. But they didn't give that to the defense either.
Mm-hmm.
So the defense didn't have, and from my non-legalese, the prosecution has to give all evidence to the defense.
Right.
You can't withhold anything.
Yeah, it's discovery.
Yeah.
So the defense has the right to see everything that they're going to present against them. So there can't be any of these like curveballs, like, oh, hey, by the way, I got this.
And you can't doctor it either.
Right. And the thing was, like, the evidence that everyone had was this grainy stuff. A company enhanced it so you could see it better. And then that's what the prosecution used. The company that enhanced it says right on there not to be used for forensic purposes. So but they used it anyway. So that's all part of discovery. And also the prosecution also has to present exculpatory evidence as well. So that's evidence that would say, hey, this probably isn't as bad as it was, or he didn't do it, or that would back the defense. Everything has to be brought on the table. And it's the way the system is designed. The system is designed to protect defendants. Now, it's interesting. Speaking of protecting defendants, I heard one of the blue check mafia members said, it seems like Wisconsin's too lenient towards the defendant. Isn't that what all of this was about prior to this case?
Right.
So you can't have it both ways. Either everyone gets that leniency or no one does. And I would rather have it, everyone gets it. Rather than, well, we're only going to give it to things that we like and defendants that we like, but defendants we don't. Because, and what people forget is that it's not always the same people in charge. It's like censorship. You can be all for censoring ideas that aren't good and that you think are hate speech and this and that. Well, guess what? You're not going to be in power forever. And the people who you're trying to censor eventually are going to be in power, and they're going to censor you.
Right.
And you're not going to like that. So let's just not censor anyone. Let's not pick and choose our defendants that we want to be that we think should be lenient to. And the system is designed to benefit the defendant. That's where the whole proof beyond a reasonable doubt comes from. That's how innocent before proven guilty. That's where all of that comes from.
Right.
It doesn't come from, now, in other legal systems, you're guilty until proven innocent. The burden's on the defense. In the United States, thank God, the burden is on the state, right, as it should be. If the state's going to drag you in here and put you through this, then it's their job to prove it.
Yep.
And that's why the burden of proof in a criminal matter is so high, because the stakes are so high. If you're going to deprive somebody of their liberty or their life, it has to be high. And if you're not going to meet that, either because your case is weak or you're incompetent, or in this case, both,
right, then
that is what it is.
Well, and the reason why I brought up that video is because in the clear video, you basically, and you can find it on YouTube or anywhere, it basically shows a scene where Kyle was running and that Rosenbaum guy jumps out from behind a car. He was like waiting for him to ambush him. Mm-hmm. Now, this was a guy who had previously threatened Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Now, others said, "Oh, he just seemed like a maniac."
He may very well have been.
But that doesn't mean Kyle didn't feel threatened,
right?
Especially after this dude who was just acting like a maniac is now chasing him.
Yeah.
And then once he got into the street, so now after he is shot Rittenhouse or Rosenbaum, he's then trying to turn himself into the police. Mm-hmm. As he's walking down the street, trying to turn himself in, and he's literally yelling, "I shot someone!" Like he's walking toward the police. Now, why a police officer didn't like maybe come to him a little bit, I don't really know. But as he's doing this, he's being followed by that Grosskreutz guy. Mm-hmm. And the other guy that got shot, Anthony something maybe.
Was it Murphy?
I don't remember his name. But the kid with the skateboard.
Yeah.
So the kid with the skateboard runs up on Rittenhouse, hits him with it, knocks him to the ground, runs away. Or he tries to grab the gun. No, that wasn't when he tried to grab the gun. But he comes back around, hits him again while he's on the ground with the skateboard, like clubbing him over the head, and then tries to grab the gun. Rittenhouse shoots, bang, bang, right through the heart, done.
Yeah.
Then Grosskreutz comes up, and initially he puts his hands up, and Kyle's got the gun down. Then Grosskreutz, and this is clear as day on the video. Yeah. Then he puts his hands down, grabs the gun, pulls the gun out, and points it at Rittenhouse. Mm-hmm. And that's when Rittenhouse shoots him through the arm.
Yeah.
So if someone's beating you and you shoot them, to me, that's self-defense.
Yep.
If someone puts a gun at you and you shoot them,
I mean,
that's self-defense. Yeah. And Grosskreutz actually said on the stand, they questioned him. The defense questioned Grosskreutz. They said, "Did Kyle shoot you before you pulled the gun out and pointed at him?" And he said, "No." Or no, I think the question was, "Kyle didn't shoot until you pulled your gun out and pointed it at him."
Right.
And he goes, "Correct."
Yes. Yeah, the prosecution witnesses were all defense witnesses,
right.
Essentially.
Pretty much. I mean, the guy goes, but then he comes later on some interview and tries to say that that's not what happened. Right. He lied completely on news. So,
like, and everyone, all the barkings, he was like,
right.
It's ridiculous.
Which is why I think none of these people from these other news networks or the blue check mafia, I don't think they watched a minute of that trial. No, because it was televised.
Yeah.
And they didn't watch a minute of it because everything that they said was everything that was said on those news networks and not what happened in the courtroom.
Right.
And that's like, I think Mark Ruffalo was talking about like, this is why this is proof that white supremacy exists or some shit.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, what? You're still comparing this to white supremacy, and you didn't watch any of this to know that the kid was clearly acting in self-defense.
Right, and what they're one of the way they're trying to alter this story is to say that Rittenhouse was an active shooter. Well, that dude had an AR with at least 30 rounds, and he had a couple spare mags on him. Mm-hmm. If that was an active shooter, it would have been a lot more than 3 people.
He's a crappy active shooter. He's not very active in the active shooter world.
Yeah, he's pretty poor at it.
Because, as an example, that dude in Las Vegas, that's an active shooter.
Yeah.
Who's just unloading magazines.
Right. From an elevated position.
Yes.
Into a crowd. Like, he had a crowd of ample targets.
I'm surprised more of that shit doesn't happen, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, it's, but he's, so the active shooter, but the thing is, they never come off it. They just stay with it. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, they're in such an echo chamber, they don't care because it's their base that's just going right along with it.
Well, they all had the talking points.
Yeah.
He went over state lines with a gun. Mm-hmm. No, he didn't.
Right.
Well, he had a gun and he shouldn't have had one. Not according to Wisconsin law. It was a long rifle. He was over 16. He was allowed to have one. Mm-hmm. Well, he was racist. Didn't shoot any black people.
Yeah.
Well, he shouldn't have been there to begin with. Not your decision to make.
Right. And the thing is, like, I'll go and say, yeah, he probably shouldn't have. Right. I'm just looking at it like when I was 17 If I had told my father that I was going to do that, he would be like, yeah, absolutely not. You're not doing that. If one of my kids came to me and said, hey, Dad, I want to go to the riots. No. Okay, what are you going to do there? I'm going to protect businesses. With what? Well, my buddy's going to give me an AR. No. We're not doing any of this.
Awful.
Yeah, all negative. Nothing good is coming out of this. Now, so I watched the prosecutor's closing argument, or both closing arguments, and when Binger was going through it, he was trying to paint a picture that, Rittenhouse was with this group of people. He's there as a medic. And the thing is, when you look at these protests, Antifa and all the protesters, they have medics too. They're trained people. They have gear and everything.
Well, Grosskreutz tried to say he was a medic.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
Yeah. Under Geneva Convention, if he came up and pulled a weapon on a soldier as a medic, he's going to get blasted too, and there's no violation of Geneva Convention there.
Yep.
If he's a medic. But so he goes through and says, well, you're here, and then you go further away from your people. And you go further away from your people. You're looking for more action, looking for more trouble. And I can't guess what was in the dude's head when he's moving from this position of safety with others and actually going into the crowd. I don't know what his objective was, but that in and of itself was not illegal. I don't think it was a wise thing for him to do.
Well, wasn't he being chased by another group, though?
So he eventually left. So he got separated from... He was supposed to stay with one person. It may have been his
buddy.
Yeah. He was supposed to stay with that guy, and eventually they got detached. So the dude didn't go off and look for him. He stayed where he was, and Rittenhouse continued into the fray. And that's where he encounters all these people and is now essentially, from the different shootings, we're all tracing his steps backwards.
Right.
It wasn't like he was advancing onto them. He was first one, and then he's moving backwards, trying to find police. Second one, moving backwards. He finally does find it. It was like a column of I don't want to say a column of armored vehicles, but that's kind of what it was. Either Milwaukee or Wisconsin State Patrol, whatever county that was, coming in, and he surrendered to them. But they were kind of just driving past him and ignoring him.
Yeah.
Now, Wisconsin, I think, is an open carry state, so you're allowed to carry like that, whereas, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, not open carry states at all.
They might not have seen the gun, though, because he had it on a strap, but it was it was on his back.
Yeah, it looked like he had some sort of 1-point sling. I'm not sure what kind of sling it was. But, he could have spun it so it was hanging on his back.
Right,
but his hands were up.
He's walking with his hands up.
Yeah.
And he's trying to tell him, he's yelling,
yeah,
hey, I shot somebody.
Right.
Yeah. But they didn't come forward to get him.
And I think we'd be remiss if we're going to go and go down the he shouldn't have been there hole to maybe no one should have been there.
Listen, how many times have people been in a place they shouldn't have been in?
Right.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The timeline starts when he's being chased.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's when it starts.
Yeah.
And when Rosenbaum jumped out, I think he was trying to get away from other people at the time.
Yeah.
And then that's when Rosenbaum and I think another person kind of came out from behind some cars. They recognized him because apparently he had a fire extinguisher and they had lit a rolling dumpster on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they got pissed at him because he put out the fire with a fire extinguisher. And that's how the encounter started with all of them. And then I think it might have cooled down or whatever. I mean, Rosenbaum was going nuts right then.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think somehow Rosenbaum and his people get separated from Rittenhouse and his people, but then somehow he finds him again, and that's when he starts chasing him, and then Rittenhouse ends up shooting him.
Yeah.
Either as he's being chased, or he's about to get him, and I think he turns and shoots him.
Right.
And then he keeps running. He's going to go turn himself in, and that's when the other two.
My question is, and I'm trying to look it up. That's what I'm doing. They keep saying he crossed state lines with a rifle. He's not from Kenosha. And it actually turns out that he has connections.
His dad lives in Kenosha.
Yeah.
So his mom lives in Indiana.
Right.
When that's where he was living. He works in Kenosha, and his dad lives in Kenosha.
Right. And my question is, they like to say, oh, well, he's not from here. Well, we all know that throughout that entire summer, there were groups that would mobilize and go to these different protests.
Right.
Were the 3 people who were shot, were they from there either?
Probably not.
So
that doesn't matter to them.
Right.
Doesn't matter. That's not the narrative.
Yeah.
The narrative was this is a white kid, super white kid, by the way. No tan in his pigment whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where like they wanted him to be a villain so badly that when he took the stand, and on the stand he's visibly shaken.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong, it was the grossest crying scene I've ever seen. Like it looked fake as hell.
Yeah.
But people like LeBron James, Joanne Reed,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, that's Oscar worthy. Like,
Yeah.
dude, okay, first of all, the kid's probably got PTSD from all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just from the shooting, but never mind all the after stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Even to the point, like, so I compare the scene when he was on the stand and crying and losing control to when the verdict was read.
Yeah, same reaction.
Same reaction.
Yeah.
He had the same weird crying face that he had when he was on the stand. Like, I'm not trying to make fun of the kid, but like maybe that's how he cries.
Some people are ugly criers.
Ugly crier. Like maybe that's just the way it is. But like originally, like when I saw it, I was like, ooh, that's some acting right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of thought the same thing. But then when I saw the verdict read and I saw him reacting, like he couldn't breathe. Like he had problems. Really, they had to like sit him down, had to get him some water, and even as he's drinking the water, like his hand's shaking as it brings it up to his mouth. His other hand that's trying to hold himself steady on the thing is shaking. Like this kid is visibly shaken from this.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when everything's done and read, he goes and he starts crying again.
Yep.
And it's that same ugly looking cry, which at that point you've got nothing to gain from it. So maybe he's just an ugly crier, and maybe LeBronica James.
Well, LeBron cried when he got a Charlie horse.
Right. But maybe some of the blue check mafia needs to shut up.
Well, I think that would do everyone a whole lot of good.
Well, it's like when LeBron decided to comment about the police officer who shot the girl who was in mid motion of stabbing another girl.
Said you're next.
You're next.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? Like, look, dude, you might be really good at basketball, but your social commentary game, if someone else is working your Twitter handle, you might need to fire them.
Find someone else.
Yeah, because you're not like I would say the person that's lost the most clout since this pandemic started would be LeBron James.
Yeah,
like,
especially after this last game where he elbowed that dude in the eyebrow on the.
Yeah, but he tried to apologize, so it's okay.
Right, that's fine. All's forgiven.
He said he tried to apologize, so of course it's okay.
But the whole media, I'm glad you came back. The whole media apparatus from Jacob Blake, which started all of this.
Right.
So when the police shot Jacob Blake, there are still pundits on major networks saying the police killing of Jacob Blake,
an unarmed black man,
right, who was armed, and they didn't kill him. Now, granted, he's paralyzed, but
he wasn't unarmed,
right,
because it doesn't go with the narrative,
right. So they're still on that. So that's wrong from the beginning. So had they come out and said what actually happened from the beginning, maybe these riots don't happen. Now, had the authorities in Kenosha shut it down,
right?
Maybe the car lot doesn't get set off. Maybe none of that other stuff happens. And maybe Rittenhouse is never there, and Rosenbaum, Huber are still alive, and Grosskreutz, whatever his name is, can still drink a beer with his right arm. But
can do 12-ounce curls with that right arm.
So maybe, and that's the thing. Like, it's It's so irresponsible from the very beginning of all this. They're still referring to Michael Brown as a martyr. Michael Brown attempted to disarm a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And, that thing, but they won't come out and say it. They still haven't come out and said it.
By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, Michael Brown reached into a cop car and tried to pull the pistol from a police officer off his waist.
Yeah.
And you'll never find that reported anywhere from a mainstream media news outlet.
Now, Ferguson Police Department, because a lot of these departments, I think some of them are starting to change, but Ferguson Police Department didn't do a very good job of bringing information out when they knew it. It's an ongoing investigation. What that does is it creates a vacuum, and the vacuum's going to get filled with something.
Right.
And generally what it's going to get filled with is inaccurate. Because they're going to ask all these people who were there who will say, oh, yeah, he had his hands up. That's where that whole narrative came from.
Hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jacob Blake was interviewed. It's like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
Right. He admitted he had the knife.
Yeah.
But the problem is that even after he said that, it didn't stop the narrative that he was an unarmed black man.
No.
It's like the guy who got shot literally said he had a knife.
Yeah.
Yet you're still going on about he's unarmed.
Right.
Yeah.
So then that town burns. And that's the one where they had the CNN reporter out, fiery but mostly peaceful.
Right.
And the Chiron. And when I saw that, I thought it was a joke, but no, that actually happened. Like, they did that.
Yep.
I mean, how stupid do you think everyone is? But
they think everyone's really stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, but to be honest with you, people are that stupid because people believe this crap.
Yeah. So,
like the tweet that, like I said, and look, I got off Twitter, but I watch people on YouTube that basically read Twitter reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I get it. Mark Ruffalo is a hardcore liberal. I get it. But dude, it's like, you got to stop peddling the nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, and like him and LeBron, they've got millions and millions of followers. It's like we talked about this with the Nicki Minaj scenario. Nicki Minaj got like 20 million followers.
Yeah.
And they were really pissed off that she was like,
there
might be something wrong with this vaccine.
Yeah. Because she went against the what the establishment says needs to be said.
To me, it's amazing that people are so quick to believe what fits their narrative.
Well, yeah, whatever fits your worldview.
Like, you want to believe. There are some white people out there that just want to be taken to task over inequality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just want. It's almost like they want to be the new victim. Like, oh yes, we were awful, and forgive us, forgive me for doing all these awful things and atrocities. Like, well, you didn't do any of it,
right? Yeah.
Like all of the stuff. Then when they talk about systemic stuff, they're talking basically it was stuff that happened in the past that basically it's allowing two different people to run a 100-yard dash, but one's got a 15-yard head start because someone put a wall in front of the other group, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't done by the ordinary, average, everyday guy out in America. It was done by corporate CEOs, politicians like Joe Biden, putting in the crime bill. Mm-hmm. It was done by very powerful, wealthy white guys.
Yeah,
back in the day. So, but you're trying, like, they're trying to say that every ordinary Joe white guy plumber now has to deal with all this garbage. He's the oppressor,
right? And that's
never going to fly with that dude.
Yeah,
he's not. And if he doesn't agree with it, he gets called a racist.
Correct.
Now he's even further pushed into his corner. Mm-hmm. Like, all of these things, I don't think people realize, by doing all this garbage and nonsense, not that you're creating more racists, but you're definitely creating you're going to create hesitancy for that guy to even approach someone else of a different that doesn't look like him. Mm-hmm. That's all it does.
Yeah.
Because that dude that's there to fix your pipes, he never had anything to do with any of that nonsense.
I mean, his family probably wasn't even here when all that happened.
Right. And they're saying, well, it should be, but it needs to be taught in schools. Like, there's no school that I know of, at least that I went to, that said, slavery was awesome.
Yeah, I can't.
Best thing ever.
Right.
You basically get taught from middle school to high school that a lot of white people got rich off of some slave labor.
Yeah, some did.
Right. I didn't.
Right.
But some did.
Right. My family was all from Pennsylvania. So
those Quakers.
Yeah, or they were in Europe.
Right.
And then came over here essentially and worked in the coal mines.
Right.
So
my people were busy getting killed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right.
So, but I guess like it's not a winning narrative to try and say that this entire group of people screwed over that entire group of people. Especially when the group that you're trying to say did it all is like 65, 70% of the population.
Yeah.
You probably got about 5 to 10% of that group. It's like, oh, you're right, I'm horrible. And they're going to try and turn, like, some of these, I hate using the word Karens. Some of these liberal Karens, the bleeding heart Karens out there, some, like Bill Burr kind of made the joke, how white women kind of like jumped over the line of oppression and it became like the head victim in all of this. And Bill was like, no. You come and stand next to me and take your lumps. Because you got all the benefits too, and the nice big house and the nice clothes while we were oppressing people. So you can stand here and take your comeuppance. That was the SNL monologue that got him in trouble.
Yeah.
Because he actually went on SNL of all places and did that monologue.
Yeah, that's not friendly to that.
No.
To that position.
No, but I feel bad for this kid. Like going back to Rittenhouse, because they're not going to leave him alone.
No, and here's the other bad part of all this, and I think it kind of gets. So I don't agree with the way the whole story was put out there, and how it happened in the first place. The government should have assured public safety from the break, but they didn't. So then, but now on the flip side, you have members of the right that are running around gloating.
I know.
And I don't like that either.
Oh, I can't stand it.
Matt Gaetz offered him a job as
him and another guy.
I forget which one.
Like,
and it's funny.
We're fighting over who's going to intern for it.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Right. Like and the people on the right, and I follow, on my limited social media ventures, I try to follow people from both sides. It's hard sometimes. And what it's turned into is the Twitter, where I don't post anything, is all the right, is all the left, and Instagram is all the right. So but they're both there. So I get to see both perspectives. But those on the right just gloating over this. And I get memes are going to happen. And memes are just humor, And if some influencer who has 10,000 followers posts a meme about, okay, big deal. But you have sitting congressmen saying, I want him to come intern for me.
Right.
It was funny, though. There are some good ones from the left on that. Like, of course, Matt Gaetz wants him. He loves 17-year-old kids. So, like, ooh, got you there, brother. But
he's like, dude, it's like him. He's like the new Adam Weiner.
Yeah.
Or Anthony Weiner.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, don't. If someone could go back and like, Anthony Weiner, you probably shouldn't run for New York City mayor after what you did. Hey, Matt Gaetz, maybe you shouldn't tweet for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
After what you got accused of.
Maybe you should shut up.
Yeah.
But like I don't like the gloating. I don't think it adds, because at some point, everyone has to come in. whoever's really affected by this has to heal, and the gloating doesn't help that at all. No. Joe Biden actually said something. His first statement after it was good when he said, that's how the jury system is supposed to work. I'm proud of the jurors or whatever he said. But then when his statement comes out, it's completely different. The best thing for him to do would have been to leave it there.
He should have shut up.
If he was going to comment, and the thing about presidents commenting on local issues is a rather new. I don't remember. Was it W. Bush? No, H.W. Bush who was a president during Rodney King. Or was it Clinton?
H.W. Or it could have been Clinton or Ray.
I'm pretty sure it was at least H.W.
Maybe.
No, I was young then, but I don't remember people saying George H.W. Bush said this about Los Angeles.
Different media times, though, too.
Yeah. But everyone has to have an opinion on these things. And, and the thing is, like, there are two people who are dead. They have family members. So even though your guy won, and I use the air quotes, at some point we'll get video and you can see the air quotes.
Right, you can see the air quotes.
But, your guy won, but there are still grieving family members involved in all this. So can we keep the gloating to a minimum?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't do anything for anyone. But I don't think anyone cares about that on either side because, hey, we won. We don't care. That's how they're looking at it. But again, I gave it to the right. I gave it to the left for their role. I got to give it to the right now. Don't gloat. That's not helping anything.
I do think the right was gloating this time because of how fake the news was from the left.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you combat when the other side is just literally telling lies, falsehoods?
Yeah.
Like they didn't get any of the facts right. It's kind of like with the Russiagate thing. I don't know if you kind of followed that lately. Essentially, the investigation by the FBI was done, and it found that the Steele dossier, which the left was saying was proof that Trump was colluding with Russians, was actually commissioned by the Clinton campaign.
Shocker.
And that the person, the source that was used for it was just a guy with Russians in his Rolodex, and he fabricated all of it. Fabricated all of it.
Yeah.
So, and the funny, if you ever get a chance, go on YouTube, listen to Russell Brand's take on this, because Russell Brand is a liberal dude.
I have heard that his podcast is really good. Like
parts of it are, yeah. He kind of reminds me. He kind of does the old. He takes factual information and then reacts to it. Basically, he took a look at the Steele dossier stuff, and he basically went through all the new facts from the investigation, and was just like, we got lied to the whole time.
Yeah.
Now the funny thing is, as of yesterday, Rachel Maddow was still talking about Russiagate.
Yeah.
Like it was still a thing, and like it wasn't made up by her side.
Yeah.
Like no.
But see,
that's like how do you combat straight up lies?
Yeah, because there's not going to be any accountability. No one's getting fired over it.
But the thing is though, this thing
they give each other Pulitzers for it.
The report, the whole dossier thing got debunked. The whole Russiagate thing, which they tried to impeach the guy for, debunked straight up. In the first 2 years they couldn't stop talking about Russiagate and collusion.
Oh yeah.
Mueller put out his report, and even when that said nothing, it didn't say he didn't do it.
It's again like the kids. You didn't say we couldn't color on the wall.
It's proof that he did it, even though it doesn't say he did it.
Right.
It's proof he colluded with the Russians. And now this thing comes out from the FBI of a Democrat president saying that it was made up. The entire thing was fabricated.
Yeah.
And this left-wing news organization is saying it's still real.
Yeah.
And there are people that listen to MSNBC that will still think it's real.
Mm-hmm.
So in real life, if you ever talk to like our neighbor,
Yeah.
he's gonna be adamant that it's real and that Trump is still the worst human on earth and he stole an election and did all this other stuff. Yeah. And like, no, man, that got debunked like 6 months ago.
Right, but it won't come out.
And in fact, I mean, the right-wing news was pointing this out over a year and a half, 2 years ago, saying it was all garbage and not nonsense.
Yeah.
Well, some left-wing people are just finding out that it's nonsense. And some of them still don't know because they're trusted news sources going to tell them. It's almost like, shoot, what was that thing? Like the Hunter Biden laptop.
Mm-hmm.
The New York Post put out the article. Everyone said it's nonsense. It's not true. Nothing happened here. Nothing to see here. It was like the summer before the election. After November 2nd, the New York Times and the Washington Post ran a little article about it and said, oh yeah, some of this stuff might be true, swept it under the rug. Meanwhile, some of the videos on that thing and the correspondences, the transactions that occurred between companies and the family, that's not small stuff.
Right.
And for whatever reason, it just got swept under the rug until after the election because those left-wing news outlets just said, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yep.
It's false. Completely. They're lunatics. They're conspiracy theorists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, they did a poll after the election, and they asked liberal-leaning voters. They said, if you would have known about this before the election, would you have still voted for Joe Biden? 10% said no.
Mm-hmm.
That's 7 million voters.
Yeah.
That would have flipped an election.
Yeah.
So it's almost like some of these news organizations act as a propaganda wing for these political parties.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I'm sure Fox News on the other side might be the propaganda wing for the right wing, but they're a heck of a lot less effective.
Yeah.
Because it also goes back to that other poll where they polled Republicans and they polled Democrats on whether they believed. When they said how many places do you get your news sources from? Republicans said 5 or more. Mm-hmm. Democrats said 2 or less. Then they asked them, how willing are you to believe that source without question? 80% of Democrats said they would. 23% of Republicans said that they would.
Yeah.
Which means 80% of Republicans just listen to CNN, NBC, and believe it.
Right.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
No skepticism.
Is. Yeah. I'm skeptical about everything.
Everything.
I don't believe a damn thing I hear.
No.
You know, it's because they have zero credibility to me. I'll be honest with you. I'll take, if Joe Rogan says it, I'm down. And, he's an MMA fighter and a comedian.
Right. but unfortunately, between him and Russell Brand.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Dore.
Yeah.
Like these are comedians that happen to go into podcasting.
Right. Maybe people listen to the Dumb Idea podcast.
Maybe.
Mike and Alex say it, I'm down.
They're down, which we've already told them they shouldn't be. Right? Don't believe this hype. Because we're usually probably going to be wrong. But how do you if you're in a war of facts, how do you fight someone that just lies the entire time and says that the other team is in a cult?
Yeah.
Because Nancy Pelosi says everyone on the right's in a cult.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the definition of a cult is, but they have a lot of true believers.
Yeah.
On that side of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
To the tipping point of fanaticism and militant.
Now, and this is my one question though: is it because if you look at the on the right, the MAGA hat crowd, and I mean they'll believe whatever Trump tells them.
Of course, that's another problem altogether.
Yeah. So I'll never forget when what was her name, Kellyanne Conway, said, well, there are facts and there are alternative facts. Like,
Right.
no. There are facts.
Yeah.
Alternative facts are what we call lies.
Right.
But,
right.
but with a straight face. Well, we believe alternative facts. Okay.
Want to hear something odd before you go on? Kellyanne Conway, Republican. Her husband, George Conway, staunch Democrat.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy to me.
Yeah, well, it's just like
Carville and his wife.
Carville and Mary Matlin.
Yeah.
But so you've got that that whole thing going on. So the right does too, but I think it seems louder and like it affects more people on the left, just because all of the your trusted, again air quotes, trusted news sources are just so heavily biased towards that
Toward the
point of
narrative.
view.
Yeah.
So I mean, think about it. New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, NBC News, ABC News, CNN. I mean, they all fall so hard left. And just reading headlines from different events, you're like, that's now a lot of the way these things are done. And we've talked about the media model with internet and how it's designed to generate clicks, and the algorithms are set up so that you can, they're set up to optimize engagement. And people say engage when they're pissed off. So if they're fired up about something. So if you share a whole bunch of stuff, active shooter Kyle Rittenhouse,
Right.
Acquitted in miscarriage of justice, then that's what and then it goes.
Yeah, it's confirmation bias with anger.
Right.
In.
And then a whole bunch of like lizard brain psychology thrown in there.
Right.
But what ends up going on is that it's so heavily slanted on that side that the fourth estate that's supposed to keep all these other assholes in check isn't doing its job.
Well, I mean, the media was supposed to keep the politicians in check.
Yeah.
Right.
And now no one's doing investigative journalism anymore because it costs too much.
Well,
it doesn't fit in with the internet model.
Well, the one guy that was Project Veritas. Mm-hmm. And James O'Keefe, his house got raided by the FBI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because allegedly, they said he stole Ashley Biden's diary or journal.
Yes.
Which he said he was given it. He didn't publish anything because it went against his ethics.
Yeah.
And he said he gave it. He either gave it back or gave it to somebody else,
or tried to give it to someone to give to her.
Right, something like that.
Yeah.
But basically, he didn't publish what was ever in there. And which you couldn't say that for some of the left-leaning organizations that they would just get, like if they got Matt Gaetz's fiance's diary, would they not publish that? Right. Yeah, okay. But because they thought under the premise of they thought he still had it, they raided his house.
Yeah.
And offices. Now this guy is the one guy doing investigative journalism. But I mean, without going into that, but I mean, the problem is anyone who seems to be doing any kind of investigative journalism right now ends up with a target on their back.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the incentive? Now, luckily, I mean, James O'Keefe seems like he's a pretty good attorney. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he's going to have much of an issue with this.
Yeah.
But
because I remember it used to be you'd see the 60-minute special, and now that's just all murder shows.
Right.
Which I hate murder shows. I'd rather watch anything.
I didn't do it, but if I did, this is how I do it.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's all murder shows. I'm like, how do people get into this? And they're all the same. Yeah. Right. No one saw it coming.
Nobody.
But I think because everything's so, and that's just the loudest part, it seems it's just them. But again, and we've talked about this before, the majority of people are in the middle and unrepresented. The mechanism that's supposed to keep these assholes in check isn't working. So at some point, something has to happen where it comes back and says, hey, you guys are supposed to be doing this particular job, but they're really good at it when the person they don't like is in office.
Right. It was supposed to be the old times of when the news media was supposed to keep the politicians in check, and now they're just the propaganda wing of those political groups. And it's like, I mean, for example, it was like with CNN and MSNBC, how they were hitting Joe Rogan for taking ivermectin.
Yeah.
Like, well, he was taking horse paste.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan takes horse paste.
And they're still saying it.
Right.
They're still saying it.
Well, and they were saying that, you know, he was irresponsible for taking this horse paste because he has so many followers. He has so many followers. Yeah, well, he has more listeners than they do.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
They don't like that.
Oh, God, no. God, how dare he?
Yeah.
You know, and I found it hysterical when, like, Howard Stern was going off on Joe Rogan. It's like, dude, Joe now is what you used to be.
Right.
Now you sound like the propaganda wing.
Right.
You old fart. Get off XM.
Yeah. Howard Stern, are you still relevant at all?
No, he's not at all. There are people that still listen to him.
Yeah.
But I don't know why.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I used to love him. I used to think he was great. And funny.
Oh, I used to listen to him all the time.
And then he just got old and curmudgeon-y and just started saying dumb stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on. Like he's still scared to leave his house because of COVID.
Oh, God.
It's like, dude, that's done.
Yeah.
And it was not done. People are still dying from it every day.
People still die from...
You know how many people died in Maryland? I think the other day from it? 8.
Well,
8.
Yeah.
14 million population.
Right.
8.
8, yeah.
I think more people died of diabetes, heart attacks.
Well, and that's so, and we're way, way off topic, but, you know, they get the jab, wear your mask, socially distance, do this, do that. Why don't you just not, how about everyone take your vitamins and not eat garbage and go walk with your family outside for 30 minutes?
Well, the one reason why I brought up the whole Joe Rogan and ivermectin thing, the horse paste thing, was because when none of them brought up, and I actually found this out on a Jimmy Dore episode. And again, Jimmy Dore, super liberal.
Yeah.
But doesn't like any of this bullshit from the left media propaganda. Like he's left, but not woke.
Yeah.
Like, he's not in the woke mob.
Well, he's probably a liberal.
He's super liberal.
Which, and
we fall, our opinions fall very much, I mean, not all of them, but we got a lot of our opinions, like the single payer healthcare, Medicare for all, this kind of, like, it falls in his lane.
Yeah.
He thought it was so important to put out the proper information about ivermectin that he literally played another video. Like he did a YouTube video that just ran another YouTube video from this doctor in the UK who showed all the papers, all the studies that were done with ivermectin.
Yeah.
Specifically against SARS-CoV-2. Now, it wasn't a human trial. It was like the Petri dish stuff when they see how the drug interacts with the virus in the Petri dish. And they did it. I think they did a study with like 11 off-label drugs. So basically, these drugs that don't have patents, they were testing them to see if they would work against SARS-CoV-2. Ivermectin had an 80% effective rate at stopping the virus from replicating. 80% effective rate. And this was known back in 2020. They did this study. Now, you can go into the financial reasons of why ivermectin didn't get a further look. The fact that it costs 3 cents per pill versus remdesivir, which does it does a very similar thing, but a lot less effective because remdesivir was in that study. Remdesivir is like, I think, $1,000.
Shocker.
And oh, by the way, the 2 drugs that Pfizer and Merck just put forward to the FDA for approval, the antivirals, attempt to do the same thing that ivermectin does with an 80% effective rate. But because they're new, because the chemical makeup, the chemical binding is different, they can patent it. And they can get 25 years of no competition. Yeah. And charge a hell of a lot more for it.
Yep.
Than 3 cents per pill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't, someone somewhere in some dark room is pulling the strings. We all know it.
For anyone who wants to watch that, though, go to Jimmy Dore's YouTube page and just watch the video. It's like, I think it's like 30 minutes. But I mean, I was shocked. Let's put it that way. Now, I'm not saying it's the end all be all. I'm not saying it's the best treatment on earth, but all I'm saying is the study that they did, from legitimate science sources. I'm not saying this is done from, Joe Blow. This was legitimately done. It was amazing.
Yeah. Now I wonder, but now that Joe Rogan's off the hit list, now it's Aaron Rodgers.
Joe will come back on it though, because Aaron Woody, he played a football game. He played 2 since he's been back.
Yeah.
No one's talking about him anymore.
Yeah.
Although they called him a monster too.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, never mind the fact they didn't even want to hear a story. Like, not that he needs a story of why he didn't take the vaccine. Mm-hmm. It's no one's business why he didn't take the vaccine, right?
Right.
Turns out he's allergic to some of the ingredients, or to one of the ingredients in it, so he couldn't take either one. The only one he could have taken was the Johnson & Johnson one. Mm-hmm. But nobody remembers that the Johnson & Johnson one was pulled for a little while. And so he wasn't comfortable taking the Johnson & Johnson
Can't
one.
blame him for that.
So he then went, and then he said this all on the Pat McAfee show. He was upfront about it and said exactly what he did. He said, yes, I said I was immunized. Mm-hmm. He goes, if anyone would have asked me a follow-up, he goes, I would have told him exactly what I did.
Yeah.
But no one asked for a follow-up.
Right, so why should you volunteer?
So why should he volunteer his personal medical information?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wants everyone just to be like, oh, here's my entire history.
Right.
Yeah. You want everyone to know your entire history?
Yeah.
I surely don't.
Right.
I got some stuff that's private. And not because it's gonna like make me some kind of like, I don't know, martyr or whatever, but it's like, look, I got some private medical stuff that happened that I'm not that open with people I don't know.
Right.
Because it makes people act a certain way towards you. Mm-hmm. Not like I got the HIV, like I'm going to spread it around. Right. I'm just shooting loads on people to give them the the AIDS virus and whatnot. I'm sure it doesn't work that way.
Right.
But I'm not. I just don't want people to know what my medical history is, just for my own personal reasons.
Yeah. Just because you're a public figure doesn't mean everything is public, and we're certainly not public figures.
Heck no. I never want that.
Yeah, it's they'll find someone else to put on the hit list.
I think Joe's still on the hit list, to be honest. Rogan's still on the hit list. I think Rodgers will end up coming off, but I mean, the thing that surprised me the most with Rodgers was how many people in the sports media went after him hard.
Oh, like Terry Bradshaw?
It was Terry Bradshaw. It was I don't even know the dude's name on like not First Take. He was on Get Up, I think, or. Mm-hmm. But even the local guys here, Jason La Canfora, which by the way, that guy's a putz. Like, dude, it's like he's one of those dudes that you can never tell him he's wrong. Mm-hmm. He's always right. He's got that arrogant prickness about him. Mm-hmm. By the way, he's on 105.7 The Fan. I'm putting this out there. That dude's a dick. Like he went after Aaron Rodgers like he was the biggest demon on earth, and he's been doing this ever since the whole COVID thing started. Him, Jerry Coleman too, on 105.7 The Fan. Ken Wyman to a certain extent does the same stuff, and I'm like, when did sports media buy into this wokeness crap? I get ESPN is.
Yeah.
I mean, ESPN is just a garbage place right now.
Well, I haven't liked it ever since Sports Center just went to that. It's all the Scott Van Pelt. Like the logo is even like his bald head with the things.
The headphones, I know.
Like
he does a show out of Baltimore. No, does he go out of DC now?
I don't know.
He does it down here now.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he's at, but yeah, he's I haven't been. Well, I think, and this is completely off, but
I don't think we've ever stayed on topic. So at this point, I've stopped feeling bad about going off topics.
Yeah. So those of you who thought we were going to be talking about Kyle Rittenhouse the entire time, I apologize.
They got 30 minutes of him.
But no, I think they kind of took a hit when all the leagues started having their own networks.
Yeah.
So you'd have
Well, they run those though. Like SEC Network, that's an ESPN channel.
right, but NHL Network's owned by the NHL.
Yeah, that's true. Oh,
MLB
I see what you're
Network,
saying. The Pro
NFL
League.
Network.
I got you.
Yeah, so like you want to see if you're into football,
Yeah.
and all you care about is football, and you don't give a crap about college basketball, regular basketball,
Right.
ice hockey, or anything else, then just watch NFL Network. And me, I'm more of a like, what time of year is it? So I'm a huge hockey fan, but this time of year, nobody cares about hockey in November.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter. So what am I into? I'd be watching NFL Network, and then after the Super Bowl, then I switch to NHL.
Yep.
And I watch NHL, and then baseball comes along. Love baseball, and yeah, do I put on baseball to watch the spring training games and all that? Yeah, because it means spring's coming, it's getting warmer, whatever. But I'm still focused on hockey.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup playoffs are over. Then I'm in MLB Network. You know, I don't need to watch ESPN.
Right.
Because it's just like they're going to cover all the sports that I don't care about. So.
Yeah. I feel like Fox. So I don't know if you know, Fox recently bought Outkick. So Outkick was the one that was started by Clay Travis.
Okay.
Well, Clay Travis just took Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, which is that like it sounds like the most made up name ever.
Yeah.
But those two took over for Rush Limbaugh. As he was doing that, Clay sold Outkick to Fox Sports, though. I feel like, and Outkick was always the place you could go. I'm not going to say it had a conservative slant to sports, but it was definitely, compared to ESPN, everything's conservative slant to sports. I think Fox is kind of missing the boat a little bit. Now, they've got the show with Skip and Shannon, but I think Fox Sports, if they would go to kind of that ESPN model without the wokeness,
Yeah.
I think they'd have a decent amount of uptick in viewers.
Right.
Because me, I like the idea of SportsCenter. I like the idea of ESPN and all the shows, but I can't stand the messaging.
No, and that's the thing. Like, and you know, whether I agree with the messaging or not is not that's not the point.
Right. So
If
I just
I'm
don't want it in my
watching
sports.
right, I want to see stuff about sports, about this. You're wasting time. You could be be breaking down a play or a series of plays or a drive or whatever it is, but you're wasting time on social justice issues. There are about 9 other networks, and let's not get into radio, TV, and internet, that someone can go to for that.
Right.
But it's so pervasive everywhere. I wouldn't want to hear the political message I agreed with on my sports.
I definitely don't.
And I'm not taking it away from athletes. If athletes want to come out and say I'm for this or for that or against this or against that, go ahead. I don't care. I also don't have to listen to you.
Right.
I don't take my guidance on these matters from athletes. Now, if you want to tell me how to run a 4-3 defense or how to run a zone defense in basketball or shoot free throws or whatever it is, like, I'm all ears. Like, that's your area of expertise. But like, I don't want to hear it. I want a diversion from it. Right. But that diversion is being taken over because I think either they all have to virtue signal or they're getting direction from upstairs that this is what you're supposed to be doing. So I'd rather not see it, and the league networks don't get into it at all.
No. I think you're right. Like, but the NFL Network, it's got Rich Eisen. I think Fox Sports Radio has Dan. What's that guy's name? Dan Patrick.
Yeah, I was gonna say Bongino. I'm like, nope, not Dan Bongino.
No. But speaking of like ESPN though, a dude who went off the rails into the political arena was Keith Olbermann. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that dude?
Oh, he sounds like a lunatic.
He sounds like a raging lunatic.
Yeah.
Like just yelling all the time.
So he used to occupy Maddow's spot on MSNBC.
Was that who it was?
Yep. So
I think we had talked about this before.
Maddow led into Olbermann, and I'm not sure who came on. I think Al Sharpton was on after Olbermann.
Maybe.
But when he kind of went crazy from there, Matt Al took over.
He was too crazy for MSNBC.
Yeah, like, yeah, you're too nutty for the nut house.
Right.
So, yeah, but that's what happened over there. But yeah, I heard his rant about the vaccine, like, you're scared. Like, he's growling, like, dude, what? Right. My God.
And unfortunately, people listen to him. Just like crazy people. I mean, people listen to Alex Jones too.
Yeah.
And I equate, so Alex Jones listeners, now don't get me wrong, he's been on like Joe's show. He's been on Tim Pool.
He's funny on Rogan when he gets bombed.
He's bombed, yeah.
But and Joe Rogan kind of like eggs him on, and it's like, you know, he's like, no, let me tell you something. Right. Like, come on, man.
Like, I think that dude, like I think he's got like I think he's got like an ADHD problem. I think he said something like that, but like some of the stuff that he says is outlandish. Now, some of the stuff he said sounded outlandish, ended up being true.
Yeah,
but his delivery reminds me of Olbermann's, and that they're so, like, the delivery's so off the wall.
Yeah,
like you're just like, what is happening?
Like
here?
Alex Jones, like I'm supposed to like rip his shirt off and stuff. Like Bert Kreischer.
Yes,
like doing his whole entire
just gonna rip
set
it off,
shirtless.
Yeah, right.
Like sweating.
Yeah, right. It's like, who is listening to this?
But then he was always selling, when he had that InfoWars.
Yep.
He was always selling.
He still has that, by the way.
Yeah, he was selling like supplements and like.
I know.
Like, why are you? You just went on this rant, and now you're gonna try to sell me creatine,
right?
Like InfoWars creatine.
Wait. Are you taking that creatine? Then no, I don't want to have that because like, you're nuts.
Right. Now your pre-workout, I might be down with some of that. Like, what's his pre-workout? Cocaine?
I think Jesus. It is. I've seen a couple of videos, like he gets so beat red. It's like, dude, you gotta suck in some more oxygen. Like
you're gonna pass out.
You're gonna pass out. Because he's not a slim dude. I mean, he's I don't know. I mean, although he does give me hope that we can eventually do video for this, because he's got a face for radio like we do.
Oh yeah.
So maybe one day we'll go live with the video cameras. But no, yeah,
not shirtless.
No,
sorry,
there'll be no shirtless. But he's nuts. Like, I can't. Like, he was on Tim Pool had a show the other day. And it was Alex Jones, Blair, what's her name? Blair White, the transvestite, that male to female transvestite.
Okay.
Who's conservative, by the way, which is weird. Why she's a conservative though.
Yeah.
So anyway, Rogan was in there. Luke Redkowski and Drew Henderson, I think, not Henderson, Hernandez, who does reporting for like Brandon Tatum and whatnot. Alex Jones is in there like screaming at the top of his lungs. Like, it was the most awkward, like, dude. And so Tim went on Joe's podcast, and Joe was like, you can't have 10 people with microphones, because that's what happens. He's like, yeah, I know. But yeah, no, so these people just come off as nuts, but I guess this is as good a place to end as any, because we got way off of Kyle Rittenhouse. But for whatever reason, that I feel like the mainstream media can turn anything into a divisive talking point, especially if they just keep harping on the lies and don't tell anyone
right.
that's watching them the truth. Why tell them the truth if that's not what gets them to come back? So I don't know. Hopefully we provided something in the middle. We try and do this show so that people in the middle know that there are other people out there from the middle that share their views on some things. There's a lot of nuance. Not everything's left. Not everything's right. There's something. There's thought in the middle on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's why people keep coming back. So please like, subscribe, comment, share. We actually got a first fan mail the other day.
Yeah,
which is kind of neat. I think I wrote back four times. The guy was just so excited to get something.
Yeah,
but
he's probably like, "Please stop."
Right, no. It's that reverse thing where like he's like, "Oh my god, Keep writing me. But hopefully everyone keeps coming back. Again, same call to action as last time. Please share it. Share it on your Facebook page. Share it on your Instagram, your Twitter, wherever you social media people are. Share the podcast. Share the website, dumbideapodcast.com. Or just share it with a friend. And we will see you next time.